Hello everybody and welcome back. In the previous lesson, we learned how to create a standard form using Django's forms.form class. We saw how to set up a forms.py file, create an empty form class, send it through a view and render it in a template. Now in this lesson, we will look at form fields. Form fields are the actual building block of any form. They are the input boxes, text area, checkboxes, drop downs, number inputs, everything the user interacts with. And Django provides a really powerful way to define all of them just with a few lines of Python. Now, after we understand the concepts, we will work on a practical example inside our app called the feedback app, where we will create a full feedback form using real field like names, email ID, rating, messages, and more. So let's jump right in and begin with understanding what form fields are in Django. So let us explore how to define form fields inside a Django form class, what the common field types are, the arguments you can use to customize them, and how they eventually appear to the user inside a web page. Now, what are form fields? A form field is simply a single piece of information that the user enters into the form. Their name, their email, a selected rating, a checkbox for terms and conditions, anything. Django makes this extremely convenient by giving us built-in field types that generate the right HTML inputs automatically. Now, where do we define form fields? All form fields in Django live inside a form class, which usually sits in a forms.py file. Each field is defined as a class attribute, and each attribute is an instance of a field class like character field, email field, integer field, and so on. Now here is a simple form with 4 fields. Notice how each field is declared as a Python variable, and each variable stores an instance of a Django field type. Now Django will automatically generate the corresponding HTML for each of these fields when we render the form. Now let's look at the common Django field types. Django comes with many field types, but these are the ones you will use the most. Each one maps to the appropriate HTML input. For example, a character field becomes a text box, a boolean field becomes a checkbox, and a choice field becomes a drop-down menu. Now let's look at field arguments. All fields can be customized using arguments. The label decides what the user sees next to the field. Now required controls whether the user must fill it in, and initial sets a default starting value, and widget changes how the field appears. For example, turning a character field into a multi-line text area. Now here is an example using widgets. Here, even though the field type is still character field as you see, the widget transforms the HTML into a text area instead of a regular input box. Widgets are powerful because they control the visual and the interactive behavior independently of the data type. Now form fields and model fields often look very similar. For example, a character field in your model may correspond to a character field in your form. But remember, model fields define what your database stores. Form fields define what input the user can give. Later in this course, we'll see how Django can generate form fields automatically using model form. Now let's take an example on the CodeChef platform and see how form fields work in Django. So here I am on the CodeChef platform, and looking at the file explorer, you can see that we have a project called My Project, and we have created an app here called Feedback App. And in this Feedback App, we have created the forms.py file where we will define the forms that we are going to use in this example. So let's look at the forms.py file that is open over here on the editor. So the task here is to create a feedback form where the user can enter some input. So if you take a close look at the forms.py file, you can see that first of all we have to import the Django form class. This will enable us to make use of all the field types and everything here in this forms.py file. Now here, first of all, we are defining a class called feedback form. This is the class which is used for defining our forms, and here the arguments are forms.form. Now here we have this feedback choices where I have given few choices here, like general stands for general inquiry, bug stands for bug report, suggestion for suggestions. So this feedback choices are something that we will be making use of as we go ahead, and you will see that. So here these are the fields in our form. First of all, we have a name field. Now the name field is of the type character. So it is a character field, and you define it as forms.character field, and within parentheses you write the label. So label is what will be shown to the user in that form field before he fills anything. So here it says your full name, and the maximum length that is allowed is 100. Then next we have an email field, and here we use the email field for that, and the label is your email address. Now when you set it as an email field, Django will automatically check if the correct format for the email address is entered. Next we have the rating. Now rating is an integer field. The label is rating 1 to 5, and we give the min value as 1 and the max value as 5. So rating should be between 1 and 5. And we say required equal to false. So when you explicitly say required equal to false, that means this is not a required field. That means even if somebody does not give the rating, it is not going to throw any error. So if you don't explicitly mention required equal to false, then required by default is always true. So for example, here in this name and email, we did not set the required to false. So that means they are required fields. So they cannot be left blank by the user. Next we have this feedback type, and this is a choice field, as you can see. So when it is a choice field, that means Django will automatically convert it into a drop down, and the label is type of feedback, and the choices that we are allowing here are feedback choices. And what is feedback choices? Feedback choices are the ones that we defined over here. So these are the options that will come in that drop down, and initial is set to general. That means by default it will have an initial value of general. So if somebody does not enter any feedback choice, then it will be set as general. Then we have this message field, which is also a character field, and then the label is your message, and using the widget we are transforming this character field to a text area. So it can have 4 rows and 40 columns. So these are the attributes we give, and this is how we use widgets inside forms. And next we have a send copy field, which is a boolean field. Now when you set it as a boolean field, Django will automatically convert it into a checkbox. So here the label is send a copy to yourself. Required is equal to false means it is not a required field. Even if you don't specify it, it will not give any error. So this is going to be a checkbox. Alright, now let's take a look at the views.py file. Now in the views.py file, we have defined a view called feedback form view. So this is the view from where we are going to call the form. So here we say form equal to feedback form. We are calling the feedback form, which is the one that we had over here, this class. And in order to call this, we should also import the feedback form here. So in the views, we say from .forms import feedback form, and this is what enables us to call the feedback form over here like this. And then we have a context dictionary here where we say form is form. So this form actually refers to this form here. And what is this form? This form gives everything that is returned by the feedback form class. Okay, and page title is provide feedback, and then we are rendering it to an HTML template called feedbackpage.html and passing this context to it. Okay, and there is another view for the home page which will render the homepage.html page. So this is the feedback page.html template that we are rendering over here. So as you can see here in this, we have a title, we have the page title, then you can see here this is where we are inserting all the data from that form. So we say forms.as_p. So what this will do, Django will convert all those things from that form into valid HTML tags, and it will just be displayed over here, and then we will have a submit button. Okay, that is for the feedback page.html template, and we have a home page template which is just to display a simple home page and also something to take us to that feedback page. And the corresponding urls.py file are also there, which defines the path for the home page and also for the feedback form. You can check this out. I'll not go into the details of that. Let me now run this program and show you the output. So I click on the run button here. So you can see that the server is starting, all migrations, whatever are there are applied. And then here we see welcome to our website. This is the home page. Let me just maximize this and show you. So it says welcome to our website, give feedback. So if I click on give feedback, you can see that the form that we have defined shows up here. Now here, let me give some name and then email address. So let me give an invalid email address here. Let me just type J without giving the full email address. And rating also, we saw that we had set the validation that it should be between 1 to 5. So let me just give it as 6 here. And you can see type of feedback has these drop downs, and initially it is set to general inquiry. So let me just call it bug report and let me say something like not working and send a copy to yourself. I can leave it checked or unchecked, it does not matter. Now if I submit feedback, you see it detected that the email address is not valid. So let me type a valid email address and then let me now click on submit. Now here again it says value must be less than or equal to 5 because we allowed rating only between 1 and 5. So let me make the rating 5, submit feedback. You can see that the feedback form worked correctly. So we did not define like where this data should go or what is the output that should come after this. So that is why nothing happens. But you can see that the form is submitted successfully. There are no errors and it worked perfectly fine. So all the fields that we have defined along with their validation has worked successfully. Now if I simply try to say submit feedback, you see it says please fill in this field, because as I told you, since we did not mention required equal to false for name and email address, these two are required fields. So you cannot leave them blank. You have to fill them before you click the submit feedback button. So that is how form fields work in Django. And that brings us to the end of this lesson on Django form fields. Now you know how to define fields, customize them, add validation options, and use widgets to control how the form looks on the page. Now to reinforce your understanding, try the practice problem that is linked with this lesson on the CodeChef platform. Hands-on practice is the best way to become confident in Django. So keep learning, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next one.